Hello, everyone. I wanted to go ahead and make the beginning of many hopeful videos, hopefully make some videos, basically with some simple lecture material. I want to include some PowerPoints here. One of the things I like about this textbook is that it is very detailed, but at the same time, I can sort of pick and choose. I've seen textbooks that are very generalized when it comes to psychology at work. And so this one I think is a little bit better. Do not be surprised, first of all, if I refer to this a lot of times as industrial organizational psychology, IO psychology. That is what my doctorate is in. And that's a big part of what this course is really all about is psychology at work and the work of what is called an industrial organizational psychologist or IO psychologist. Now, the very first thing I want to talk about today is what I think gets overlooked an awful lot, and that is what is called a job description. Job description, it should be at the very foundation of any given job. And I know an awful lot of people who have never even seen a job description. They don't know what it entails, or it's been handed to them, and they really have no idea what it's all about. So today I want to talk about the job description, what it is, how you can use it, what you should find in it, and just a little bit about how we come up with a job description using a technique called a job analysis. I will get more into the material on job analysis a little bit later. Okay, but let's get you started. For the most part, when it comes to a job description, a lot of people really see this as a very small aspect of business and industry. Why do you have it? You fill one out just to keep it on file, put it off to the side, and you never worry about it. In reality, job descriptions are a very, very big part of what the job is, okay? Because it explains a lot of how jobs are created, um, why we need them, why we justify having the job, and the job description also is very, very important for legal cases. There are many times that someone comes along and has a dispute. Heaven forbid you get into a lawsuit. A job description not only tells you what the job is about and the duties and the education and so on, justifying it, but basically it can be brought up in a court of law. So it's definitely an important document to have. You don't want to turn around and have an employee that is suing you or bringing a charge against you, claiming that you've discriminated against them, and then when you're asked to produce your job description describing a job, and you say, "I don't have one." That's not a very good thing. So keep that in mind. That's definitely not what we want. All right. Now, why have one of these things? What do you use them for? As you see there, we talk about what's called human resource planning. Okay. Um, a lot of times, a good job description and having that allows us to get a feel for what a job is all about and help us determine who would be some good employees to fill in certain slots. Sometimes the hardest worker is not always the best leader, but a good employer, a good HR department will turn around and make some plans in advance that if person A leaves this job, then we really would plan on putting person B in there. Or if individual X turns around and gets transferred, then individual Y would be the best one. So um, a lot of times HR takes care of that. HR being human resources, your personnel department, sometimes is taken care of by industrial organizational psychologists, but that's a big one. Hiring, recruitment, and selection, definitely vital to know what the job is. If you're going to tell people about a job, if you're going to be part of the interview process for a particular job, you got to know what that job is. Okay, if you're going to be part of an interview committee and you really don't even know anything about the job, that's terrible. I mean, it has to. In fact, it's so important that the EEOC, that is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, requires that job descriptions be a part of the hiring process because it justifies things. You know, everyone understands the duties and the education level if the job description lists those things. And therefore, when you're turning around and doing a job interview, you know those things in advance and there's really no doubt. A lot of times when people get hired, there is orientation. Orientation basically involves telling a person what the job is all about, what they're going to do, and so on. And you definitely want to turn around and have a job description available so that you can answer any of those questions. All right. Other uses basically include training and development. Um, training and development has to know if you have an individual department or if you're doing the training on your own. You got to know basically what the job is all about. All right. What are the duties? What are the qualifications to do the job? What does a person have to do? I keep calling it duties. A lot of people call them competencies. In later video, you'll hear me talk about competencies. All right. If you do further development or further training after hiring, you need to have a job description to turn around and justify why you need to do those kind of things, especially if you get called in on it. Performance evaluations. I bet an awful lot of you have been evaluated at your job. And if you've been evaluated at your job, then you turn around and sometimes find yourself in a predicament where you do certain tasks, but the evaluation form looks at things unrelated to the job. That's very dangerous. That is very dangerous. Job evaluations, performance appraisals, things of that sort should reflect the job description. Whatever are the duties or competencies on the description should match what's on the performance appraisal, okay? And you got to be careful, because if you do this to an awful lot of people, it could get you into a legal battle. We'll talk about affirmative action scenarios a little bit later. What if you're union? What if you have a labor relations issue going on? Okay, you need to make sure that unions definitely want to know all the duties that are lined out for a particular job. They will not just accept that, you know, other duties as applied. So another reason to have a job description is that unions are going to want to see one and have it very well written up, so there's very little doubt of what's going on. Okay. Now, let me talk just quickly about the job analysis. We're going to get into this in a great deal more information in a different lecture video. But what is a job analysis? The job analysis is that process necessary to come up with what are called the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities of a given job. We'll talk about very briefly here in a moment how you do that. What knowledge do you need to do a job? You write that into the description. What skills do you need to know? Goes in as well. For example, let me back up here. In terms of knowledge, high school diploma, college education, do you need to have general information on some other category? A lot of knowledge is very cognitive. Skills is very behavioral. You're able to do this task or do that task or so on and so forth. You're able to lift 40 pounds. You're able to work a particular piece of machinery and so on. Abilities may refer to something in between, such as the ability to speak a foreign language or to travel or to work nights or days and things like that. That is your K and your S and your A, your knowledge, skills, and ability. And anything that's not covered in those falls in the final category, the O, okay? The KSAOs is what they refer to them. So get used to hearing that term, KSAOs, all right? Other things that you'll try to gather from a job description: you'll try to determine what other tools and equipment may be necessary. You may try to determine through a job description what hazards there are. Are you going to be working in a mine? Are you going to be working in a nuclear power plant? Are you going to be working as a taxi cab driver and take the risk of the people that you might be picking up? Sometimes may be dangerous. Safety hazards, educational training, pay grade, they're all pretty much right there. You're going to try and determine all of these from your job description. You really are. And probably the biggest that you see there is operations to perform the job. Okay, so these are some of the things you're going to be looking for. Finally, when you write it all up, these are some of the categories that you want to have. All right, you want to absolutely make sure you have in the final product your job description. You've done the analysis, and we'll talk about that more later. It's time to write up that description, okay, to put it to paper. And what does it have to have? Well, first of all, you have to have a title, okay? You have to have a title, you know, teacher, all right? Professor of psychology, that could be the title of a job description. You want to turn around and describe the duties, the activities, the competencies, basically what the job is all about, all right? Has to turn around, a professor has to turn around and teach 15 hours and possibly as much as 21 or more hours per semester. A lot of standing on your feet, a lot of working in front of a computer. Those might be some of the activities or competencies involved. Physical environment. Is a person going to be working indoors? Is a person going to be working outdoors? Is a person going to turn around and be working at night? Are they going to be working during the day? Those are things to consider. All right. Who are you going to be working around? All right. Does a job have you working mostly by yourself? Are you going to be surrounded by an awful lot of people? Are you going to find yourself working in the middle of nowhere, but around animals and things like that potentially? The social environment comes into play. And your conditions of employment. Are you going to be working full time, part time, seasonal work? Are you working seasonal work that might become full time? Will your job be 8 to 5, Monday through Friday? Salary, is it hourly? Will the job come to an end if it's a temporary job, let's say, right after the end of the holiday season and things of that sort? So those are all conditions of employment. And then really one of the big ones is job qualifications. What do you need to be able to do successfully to do this job? The qualifications refer to, as I said earlier, all the lifting, the certain work, the certain abilities. A lot of your qualifications are your KSAOs. Okay, your KSAOs. Now I went through that pretty quickly. So if it seemed like you're trying to write a lot of this down and it was going quickly, I suggest that you turn around and go through it again, hit stop, take some notes, but pay attention to these things because they're all very, very important. All right, folks, that's what it's all about. We'll try to make some more of these as we go. Take care now. We'll see you.